tell the world.
Hi, I'm Johnny. This is Johnny Likes, the show where I talk about movies that I like. Today, I'm going to talk about a new comedy that felt like a breath of fresh air. Today, Johnny likes The Blackening. The Blackening was directed by Tim Story, and it was written by Tracy Oliver and DeWayne Perkins. It stars Grace Byers, Jermaine Fowler, Melvin Gregg, Mayo, DeWayne Perkins, Antoinette Robertson, Sinqua Walls, Pharoah, and Yvonne Orji, as a bunch of friends getting together for a semi-college reunion over a Juneteenth weekend at a cabin in the woods. And I say cabin, it's like a house. Things go sideways once they realize that there is a killer with a grudge against them. You ever have a movie be exactly what you want to watch in the moment? Well, this was that movie for me. I'd never heard about this movie until a few days ago when I saw the poster on the internet, and I immediately thought, well, I'm in. It was a good low-key time. Like, imagine if Marlon Wayans' Haunted House movies had actually been funny. It's billed as a horror comedy, but the horror aspect is toned way down. It's much more a comedy with a horror premise. It's not a spoof directly in the same way as the scary movies are, although it did give me similar vibes. But it does borrow some horror movie setups, like the cabin in the woods or the deadly game they play. I really enjoyed the sense of humor that this film had. It's kind of marketed as a black comedy, but as a white guy, I never felt excluded or uncomfortable laughing at the jokes. They're goofy for the most part, with a sharp sense of social and racial stereotypes and biases. There wasn't any gross-out humor, like in Scary Movie, which was nice. Nor was there actually all that much in the way of gore or violence, so if you're squeamish about that, don't really worry. And when there was violence, it had more of a slapstick quality to it. It also wasn't full of sight gags like a Scary Movie or Airplane, something like that. The jokes were all well written, and often with a little bit of a bite to them. I'm not gonna lie, some of the cultural references went way over my head, but for the most part, I could track what was being said. And I did actually appreciate that they didn't try and explain the cultural references that a guy out of the loop such as myself wouldn't get. It wouldn't have worked as well if they did. Having to explain the joke to the audience doesn't usually work. I'm kind of ashamed to say that I was unfamiliar with anybody involved in this movie, apart from Diedrich Bader, and I knew him from Office Space and The Drew Carey Show. I know. Big surprise, he recognized the white guy. It's true, I'm the worst. Anyway, looking at the cast's bios, I just haven't seen the stuff these actors have been in. They all have a decent amount of credits to their name. It's just all shows or movies I haven't seen. The kind of lone exception was the director, Tim Story. I had seen the Fantastic Four movie he did, and I have seen Barbershop many, many years ago. Plus, I've probably seen a few of the music videos he did. He had a pretty extensive list. Aside from that, everyone was pretty much brand new to me. All of the performances were solid, and I found them to each be likable and funny in their own way. And even though the characters they play are generally one note, they never felt over the top or like caricatures, except for maybe Clifton, the nerdy guy. He was borderline. And I found the jokes to be split up fairly evenly between the lot of them, which isn't the easiest thing to do in a small ensemble cast like this. There was no breakout star here, or was there really a straight man to bounce off of? But the sum of the parts made for a very satisfying watch for me. Well, I was watching this alone with my girlfriend doing stuff in the other room, and she passed by a couple times. The first time she walked in, looked for a few seconds, went, "Yeah, that's the killer," and then walked off. The second time she walked in was when the killer was revealed, and she went, "Yep." And that made us both laugh, as she was able to walk in with no context and be like, "Yeah, that's the guy." I don't want to ruin any of the punchlines, but there is one from the preview, which was quite funny, so I don't feel too bad sharing it.
So what do we do now?
Call the cops?
This film also looked really good. All the interior shots were shot very well and had excellent use of color, and the exterior shots also looked quite good. Now, I don't always talk about the cinematographer in my reviews, but I thought that this movie looked good enough to mention him, and it is a guy named Todd A. Dos Reis. I'm probably butchering it, but that's the guy's name. He was the cinematographer of the film. I really like how far shooting digitally has come. It used to be that you could immediately tell when something was digital because it looked cheap and lower quality. Now it looks slick and expensive. And there's been a few films that I've watched recently that have looked unexpectedly good like this. They were A Murder Mystery 2, which the Adam Sandler, Jennifer Aniston rom-com, and Evil Dead Rise, the Evil Dead horror movie. They were both unreasonably good looking for what they were. And from what I can gather, one of the reasons for this is they both used the Arri Alexa camera, and I couldn't find any information on what camera was used to shoot The Blackening, so I'm not sure if this really good look is due to the camera, or if it's something done in post-production, or if it's just the skill of the people involved. Whatever the method is, it looks great. I also have to give this film props as it had opening credits, which is something you don't see too often anymore. And I don't always love them, but I do kind of miss them sometimes, as it's nice to be able to just read, see who's involved, and not have to look it up separately after. That's about all I have to say about this movie for today. It's a well-made, smart, and funny comedy, using a horror movie plot as the structure for jokes. Check this one out. You might be surprised how much you laugh. I know I was. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So if you like this, want to check something out, kinda similar in some way, I would say check out The Wolf of Snow Hollow. It's similar in that it uses a horror movie structure for this dark comedy, and there's not too much gore or violence in it. Us, a great horror movie with some good social commentary thrown in there. Extraordinary, another low-key comedy with some horror elements thrown in. And what would you recommend for me to watch if I like this? And what do you guys want to hear me talk about? Let me know in the comments, and if you could do me a favor and like and subscribe, that would be super duper. It's quick, free, and relatively painless, plus it really helps me out. Thanks for watching me talk about movies, and you can tune in next time to see what else Johnny likes.